Welcome to this third part of my 4-part series chronicling the build of Minicraft's Titanic model. In this episode I'm going to finish off building the top deck and then move on to building the bow and stern areas and installing the lifeboats. So let's get into it. So first of all, I'm using Humbrol 54 metallic paint to paint the expansion joints on the ship. There were 2 expansion joints. These ran across the ship, allowing it to flex in heavy weather. And I'm putting in the extra railings, which I mentioned at the start of part 1, an aftermarket item, which separate the parts of the top deck between passengers and crew. I've installed the 4 funnels. Now I'm going to use super glue in a brush form and some super glue accelerator or zip kicker to install the rigging for the funnels. Each micro filament goes in and is glued on the inside of the funnel, and then I put a bit of accelerator on a cotton bud and it's nicely secured, and do that with the others. And just as we watch this taking place in fast forward, I'd like to mention that there are a series of very helpful YouTube videos that are virtual tours of the Titanic. I consulted these while making the model and found them invaluable. I've included links to these videos in the description below. Trim them. I put on the top parts of the funnel, and there is one funnel completed. Obviously rigging goes on both sides of the funnel. And there is the top deck completed. Now I found that I had to move in the various pillars connecting it to the deck below because they did not connect otherwise. I don't know if this was a mistake I made, but I found they had to be shifted inwards at both the aft and the forward ends of the ship. And there is the top deck going on to the other decks. And now moving on to the bow area, I used Mascol as a helpful way to be able to paint the bollards that are part of the bow structure. as well as other areas, including where the anchor chains go. So now I'm painting the bollards with the area around them masked off. Removing the masked areas. And there we go. And now I'm cutting the anchor chains. These are indeed made of metal, so hence the use of wire cutters. The chains don't actually attach to the anchors, they simply are inserted in these holes and are glued in place underneath. Now there's a number of items on the bow, vents and similar, which are not included with the model, strangely. And I scratch built these, so all the items I'm pointing to now. Also, there's some wires which have to be inserted through the bow, and in fact it's 4 of the wires on the left, none of the wires on the right. And they go into those 4 spots there. And there's the bow deck going into place. Now we're starting to work on the cranes. These need microfilaments as well, and this is how I installed them. A bit of super glue, microfilament, accelerator, bit more super glue, hold the microfilament taut, and accelerator. The end is trimmed. At the end of the arm I leave a bit of microfilament hanging down to represent the chain and the hook of the crane. And there it is. 2 of the cranes go one under the other here, and the microfilament for the one going under has to be longer and loose so that it fits. Now this is the deck for the docking bridge, and at both ends of that groove there you have to cut holes. A guide for the holes are here underneath, and 2 pillars go through those holes as part of the bridge. And these two squares here in fact need to be covered with skylights, which are not part of the kit. I scratch built the two skylights. This is one of them. And there's the docking bridge in place. There are the two pillars. And there are the two skylights. Putting on the railings for the bow. I found PVA glue worked fine. And I put these parts of the railings on and then trimmed the tops so that it creates the little access ways for the ladders. And there's the bow deck completed. Here's some more railings with life rings going onto the aft area of the ship. And this is how I put on the railings that bend round the stern. I glue them into place here, wait for it to dry, bend it around, more glue, and held it in place until it was dry. There goes the railing for the docking bridge. And here I am trimming the railings to create the access points for the ladders. Putting in cranes. I'm now cutting out the notices which go onto the stern of the ship. I actually used extra pieces of plastic which I painted red to mount the notices on because they were so flimsy. There they are, there's two of them. One's on the other side, you just can't see it. Moving on to the lifeboats, these are the davits, and the bottom brown part there is meant to slot into the deck, as I showed, but it sticks up above the deck, which is incorrect. I tried sanding the brown runner down, but it made a very uneven finish and didn't sit right. And so in the end I decided to fill the slot with styrene. It needed 2 to 3 strips per slot. There's 4 of them on the ship. Painted them the colour of the deck. I removed the runner, but kept the davits attached to the sprue so that they remain the right distance apart. Sanded down the bottoms of the davits so they're nice and even. Glued them into place on the sprue. Carefully remove the sprue. filed off the burrs using a nail file. Touched up the exposed areas with paint. Now I'm working on the lifeboats. Each lifeboat is split in half and they have a line along the top, which I simply use a paint pen to apply. Most of the lifeboats have grey tops, which is the coverings for the lifeboats, but two in the front actually have black tops because they were strung over the side of the ship and were left open at the top. They didn't have a cover. This is one of those, hence this has got a black top to the boat. So I'm now putting on the decals. I cut them in two to keep it nice and clear, with the left hand decals going on the left hand side of each boat and the right hand ones on the right hand side of each boat. Applying the decals, plenty of water so they're nice and maneuverable. So I'm applying the decals for lifeboats 7 and 8. I use a cotton bud to dry them. Final positioning. Here they are all in place. So the flags in each case point in towards the sprue, and the numbers in each case point away from the boat. If you find your cotton bud is not absorbent enough, just tease out the end a little and it will work fine. So now we have to put some filament through each lifeboat. This will attach the boat to the davits. So they're attached and there are the wires protruding from the boat. This is a boat with a grey top because it's covered. With the two lifeboats that are strung over the side of the ship, I simply painted on brown lines to represent the seats. And there are all the lifeboats ready to be installed. And the filaments attached to the davits. A little bit of super glue. Here is the lifeboat being strung over the side of the ship. The microfilaments are trimmed. Microfilaments are also strung between each of the two davits for each lifeboat. And there are the lifeboats all in place on both sides of the ship. Well, that completes part 3 of this series. Please like and subscribe. I look forward to you joining me for the 4th and final part. See you there.